There's a version of the world that most people never see, not because it's hidden, but because they're asleep when it happens. The hours between midnight and 5 in the morning are different from any other part of the day. The buildings are the same, the streets are the same, but the people who work in them during those hours will tell you, if they trust you enough, that something changes, something that's hard to name. Tonight I have 4 stories from 4 people who know those hours well, people who had jobs to do in the dark, in places that should have been empty. And they did their jobs, but they weren't alone. 4 stories, lights off. Let's go. The first story comes from a woman I'll call Sarah. She's 38, from Manchester. She's a registered nurse, 12 years on the wards. She asked me not to identify the hospital or the ward. She told me she's never written anything like this down before, but she spent a long time in convincing herself that she wasn't imagining it. She doesn't think she was imagining it. In her words, the button in room 14. I want to be upfront about something. I don't believe in the supernatural, not because I've thought deeply about it and reached a conclusion, just because it's never been part of my life. I'm a science person. I believe in what I can see and measure. I'm still a science person. I just can't measure what happened on Ward 6 last February. We had a patient in room 14 for 6 weeks. I'll call her Margaret. She was 84, admitted after a fall. Sharp as anything. Good company during the long nights when the ward was quiet. Margaret had a thing about room 14. She kept telling us it felt busy. That's the word she always used, busy. She said there was something always going on in that room at night, movement and sounds. We put it down to age, to the unfamiliar surroundings, to the disorientation that comes with being in the hospital. We were kind about it, but none of us took it too seriously. Margaret went home in the 3rd week on February. Room 14 was empty for 4 days. The next patient wasn't due until Monday. On the Thursday night, at 2:17 in the morning, I know that exact time because I checked my log immediately after, the call bell for room 14 went off. I have a protocol. You go and check, you cancel the alarm, you note it in the log. Call bells go off for all kind of reasons. Equipment fault, someone bumping the button, a patient who's been admitted late and hasn't been added to the board yet. I went to room 14. Dark, empty, bed made, no patient, no equipment plugged in. The call bell handset was still sitting on the bedside table, exactly where we leave them when a room is unoccupied. The bell had been triggered from that handset. You trigger the call by pressing a button, physical button. Someone or something had pressed that button on that handset in an empty room at 2 in the morning. I cancelled the alarm, noted it in the log, equipment fault, and went back to the stations. At 3:41, the bell went off again. Room 14. I went back, same thing, dark, empty. The handset on the table. I checked the handset this time, thought maybe the button was sticking. It wasn't. Clean, functioning, no faults. I stood in that room for a moment, and I had a feeling I don't quite know how to describe. The word that comes to mind, and I know how ridiculous this is from a nurse of 12 years, is occupied. The room felt occupied. I went back to the station and said nothing to my colleague because I didn't know how to say it without sounding like I was needed a holiday. At 4:52, the bell went again. This time, my colleague Sandra came with me. We stood in the doorway together. Empty room, handset on the table, dark. Sandra, who is even less fanciful than I am, stood there for a moment and then said, very quietly, "I don't like this room." I asked her what she meant. She shook her head. "I don't know. I just don't like it right now." The bell didn't go off again that night. When the day team came on, I mentioned the call bell log. The charge nurse looked at the 3 entries, 217, 341, 452, and nodded slowly. "That room does that sometimes," she said. I asked how long it had been happening. "You thought about it?" "Since before I started here," she said. "I've been on this ward 9 years." She walked away to start her handover, and I stood at the station thinking about Margaret saying the room felt busy at night. The last time she said it, we'd smiled and told her everything was fine. I think Margaret knew something we didn't, and I actually think she was right. Story 2 comes from a man I'll call Dave. He's 51, from Sunderland. He's worked in manufacturing his whole career. Supervisor on nights at production facility. Practical to his core. Told me he spent 20 years dismissing anything he couldn't explain. Now he can't explain this. His words. The second clock in. I'll tell you straight, I'm not that type. My wife believes in all that, my mother believes in it, and my daughter believes in it. I'm the one that sits across from them and says, "I'll have been a fox." So take what I'm about to tell you in that context, because if I'm saying something happened that I can't explain, it means I've tried very hard to explain it first. This was in November. We are a continuous process plant. Nights aren't unusual. On this particular shift, I was scheduled with one other person, a lad called Gary. Just 2 of us for a 12-hour stretch. Gary rang in 6 at 10:30, 45 minutes before his shift starts. I can't run the line with one person, safety-wise, but I can manage the facility, keep an eye on things, and do monitoring rounds, make sure nothing goes wrong while cover gets sorted. I've done it before. I went in. At 12:45, I checked the clocking in system, a digital panel by the main entrance. You badge in when you arrive and it logs it. My badge was in there, 23:02, and underneath it, 23:38, Gary. I stared at the screen for a long time. Gary had run in sick. Gary was at home. I'd spoken to him. He sounded genuinely unwell. There was no version of events where Gary had come in, but the system said Gary had badged in at 23:38. The clocking system logs badge swipes. It doesn't glitch and imagine badge swipes. It records physical contact with a registered badge. Someone had swiped Gary's badge at 23:38. Gary's badge was with Gary, 40 miles away in Sunderland. I checked the door camera. One camera on the main entrance pulled up the footage, 23:30 to 23:45. The door didn't open. 23:38, the exact time with the badge swipe, nothing happened. No one came in. The door didn't move. The sensor light that activates when the door opens didn't activate. But the system logged a badge swipe. I rang my manager and told him what I'd found. He went quiet for a moment and told me to document it, and then he'd look into it in the morning. He didn't sound as surprised as I expected. Cover arrived at 2. I handed over and drove home. The next day, I asked my manager what the system had found. He said they had run a diagnostics, no fault found, no explanation for the log entry. I asked if anything like that had happened before. He looked at me in that way managers look at you when they don't quite know how to answer the question. Once or twice, he said. Usually nights. He went back to his office. I still work nights at the facility. I'm still not that type. But I check the clocking systems when I arrive now. And I'm always relieved when there's only one name on it. 2 down, 2 to go. Both of the remaining stories happen in places that most of us walk through every single day without a second thought. You might feel differently about them after tonight. If anything's happened to you at work or anywhere you've been alone when you shouldn't have felt watched, email is in the description, send it in. Subscribe if you haven't, and back to it. Story 3 comes from a man I'll call Riz. He's 42 from Birmingham. He's been a taxi driver for 9 years, mostly nights. He knows his city at 3 in the morning better than most people know it in daylight. He described this as the last fare he ever picked up after midnight. And in his words, the fare to Denholm Road. 9 years night driving. You develop, dickhead. 9 years night driving. You develop a sense for people. You have to. Who's had a good night? Who's going to be trouble? Who just needs to get home in silence? I'm good at reading people. That instinct has served me very well. What happened with this fare? I've gone over it hundreds of times and there's no version of events that makes sense. It was a Thursday, about 2:45 in the morning. Booking came through the app. An address, a destination, no name beyond an initial, which is normal. The pickup was a woman, standing exactly where the app said. Mid-30s, dark coat, small bag. She got in without saying anything. Not unusual, plenty of people don't speak at that hour. I confirmed the destination, she said yes. One word. Denholm Road, residential street, about 22 minutes from pickup. I know it, I've done it dozens of times, straight route, not complicated. I pulled away, the car was quiet, I drove. I have a dash cam, front and rear, had it for 5 years, good one, wide angle, records continuously, date and timestamp. About 10 minutes in, I glanced in my rearview mirror just to check the habit. And the back seat? Well, it was empty. I thought I was mistaken, tired, quick glance, maybe the angle. I checked again. Empty. The seat behind me, where she had been sitting, was empty. Her bag was gone. There had been no stops. The door had not opened. I would have heard it. The dash cam would have recorded it. Car system registers door events. No door had opened since she got in. She was there when I pulled away. She was not there 10 minutes later. I pulled over on a side street. Sat there for about 5 minutes trying to work out what had happened. Trying to think through the possibilities. Did she somehow get out whilst I was driving? The car had been moving. There had been no stop, no slow point, no way to exit without my knowing. There's no explanation. I drove to Denholm Road anyway. I think I needed to see if she was there, if she had arrived before me somehow. Denholm Road was quiet, empty. I sat there for a moment, and then I went home. The next day I pulled the dashcam footage. She's on it when I pull away from the pickup. Clear. Sitting behind me, looking out the window, dark coat, small bag beside her. The footage runs continuously. No cut, no gap. At the 9 minutes and 52 second mark, I've watched this frame by frame. She's there, and at 9 minutes and 53 second mark, she isn't. One frame, 1/25th of a second. I've shown it to two people, and both watched it, and both went very quiet. One of them said, "Delete that, don't keep that." So I deleted it. I don't take night fares anymore. My income's taken a hit, but it's worth it. Some things I'd rather not understand. The last story for tonight comes from a woman I'll call Gemma. She's 29 from Bristol. She worked for a commercial cleaning company, overnight contracts, office buildings, the kind of places that are full of people all day and completely empty at 2 in the morning. She no longer works nights. She quit in the morning. In her words, the document on the screen. I want to say from the start, I'm not someone who scares easily. Overnight cleaning for 3 years, 6 nights a week, alone in office buildings from 11 at night until 6 in the morning. I've been in every kind of dark building at every kind of hour, and I've never been rattled. But this rattled me. The building was a 6th floor office block in Bristol city centre. Open plan, glass everywhere, hot desks. I was contracted to clean floors 2 through 5. I was the only person in the building. I had the master key. Security had checked the building before I arrived and confirmed it was clear. I started at the bottom and worked up. Floors 2, 3, 4, standard. Nothing noticeable. I started on floor 5 at about 2:15. Floor 5 was open plan. Rows of desks, monitors all switched off. The emergency lighting gave me enough to work by without the overheads, which is what I preferred. I was about halfway through when I noticed the screens. One monitor, about 15 meters away, on the left side of the room. On. Not sleep mode. Fully on. And bright. Every other screen on the floor was black. This one was lit. My first thought, someone had left it on during the day. It happens, walk over and turn it off. As I got closer, I could see there was a document on the screen. A word processing document, white page, black text. I got close enough to read it. My name was on the screen. Not my full name, my first name. Gemma. Repeated. Document was my name over and over, filling the page. Formatted as a list, line by line, all the way down. I'm aware of how this sounds. I'm aware of how it reads. I'm telling you exactly what I saw. I looked at the cursor. It was at the end of the last line, blinking and active. The document was open and active on a machine in an empty building at 2:15 in the morning, and it contained my name, repeated down the page. I looked around the floor, every desk, every aisle I could see, the whole floor from where I was standing. Glass partitions, no hidden corners. It was empty. My name is not on any paperwork for this contract. Contract is with my employer. I'd been cleaning this building for 4 months and had never introduced myself to anyone there. Never left my name anywhere. There was no legitimate way my name should have been on that screen. I took a photograph of my phone. I needed to know it was real, and I turned the monitor off. I finished floor 5 on autopilot, just finishing the job because finishing the job was the only thing I could think to do. I left at the usual time. In the morning, I handed my notice in. I told my employer it was a personal matter. I didn't tell him what I'd found because I knew how it would sound. I still have the photograph. I've looked at it twice since then, just to make sure I didn't imagine it. I didn't imagine it. I don't work nights anymore. Lower pay doesn't matter. But I check my name and things now before I walk away. Just to make sure it's only there once. Four people, 4 different buildings, 4 moments in their hours between midnight and 5 when something happened that none of them have ever been able to explain. The night shifts ask something of people who work it, a kind of solitude that most of us will never know. They don't expect anything in return. They just need someone to hear them when something goes wrong in the dark. If you work nights or have done, and something happened to you and never told anyone, the email is in the description, send it in. That's what this channel is for. New stories every Monday and Thursday. Subscribe so you don't miss them. Take care of yourselves, and if you're on a late shift, check the clocking in log before you start. Good night.